Hello, and today I'd like to look at Aromages, a plant synchro deck that I have been a long-time fan of, playing the deck for nearly 6 years at this point. It is a relatively low-level deck. It's not going to be competing at a regional level anytime soon, but it can still be a lot of fun to play. So I thought I'd go into the deck, show a little bit about how it works, showcase the main starting combos, and show off some replays. So, first things first, Aromages are primarily a deck focused around controlling life points relative to your opponent. All of the Aromages have two different effects. The first is a continuous effect that happens while your life points are higher, and the second is an effect that happens when you gain life points. And these effects are, with one exception, all soft once per turns. Now, unfortunately, most of the main deck Aromages are not strong enough to really consider running in an optimized list, so we're not running most of them here. However, if you want to play a slightly more casual list, you can still get away with it. So I'll quickly mention Bergamo, which gains 1,000 attack when you gain life points and grants piercing while yours are higher. Rosemary, which can be used to swap battle positions of an opponent's monster when you gain life points and gives a buff when your life points are higher. And Kananga, which applies a debuff while they're higher and bounces back when you gain. But now let's look at the cards we are actually running. So, we are running a Sunseed engine in it. It's very much one of the most powerful engines you can run in a deck for plant decks at the moment, and it happens that the Sunseed line sets up all the conditions you want for the deck, including our boss monster and higher life points. So it's definitely worth it. It's arguably the best normal summon we can take. So we have 3 Sunseed Genus Loci. We also have triple Parallel Exceed because it allows us to play through certain hand traps, and is one of the several cards that are part of our 2-card starter pairs. A single Aromage Marjoram. Marjoram is one of the main deck Aromages that can be justified in running. She's a level 5, so she's not something you can get out super easy, but you have lots of different ways to get her in play. And her 2 biggest effects are one, that when a plant is destroyed by battle, you can special her and then gain life points, which makes her slightly different because she does not have the continuous effect of, she has actually, she also grants battle damage protection while your life points are higher. But then the real key with her is that when you gain life points, you can banish cards from your opponent's graveyard, which make her useful against a lot of decks, including the top decks right now, so she's pretty cool to have. We have a small Rika package of a single Primula, who, if you're not familiar with Primula, she can summon from hand when a plant is tributed, which you'll be doing a lot. And 3 Snow Princess, who's a free plant extender. You can summon her for free from your hand, no cost whatsoever. Triple Rose Girl, another plant extender that drops when a plant leaves the field, and we're running all of these mainly so that if we get hand trapped, we have bodies to extend. A single Lone Fire, that is an interesting thing that I have started seeing more often and wanted to try out, and I actually do kind of like the reasoning. Lone Fire, you would think would be the best normal summon in a plant deck, but if it's asked, your field is empty, so Loci actually supplants it in this list as my secondary normal, or even primary really, with Lone Fire being dropped to 1 for combo purposes. Double Aromage Jasmine. So Jasmine, while your life points are higher, it's a double summon, you can normal summon an extra plant, and then once per turn, if you gain life points, draw a card. She's very useful for card advantage and for playthrough. She doesn't do anything on her own, but if your life points are higher, she can be very effective. A single Sunseed Twin, who is part of the Sunseed package. You summon it off sowing to revive Loki. Triple Laurel, who is the best main deck Aromage, to the point that we even see him pop up in other plant decks. If your life points are higher, special from the hand, and if you gain life points, you can make a non-tuner plant become a tuner. If it's sent to the graveyard, you can gain 500 life points. So linking him away into our boss monster is a main combo, so he's pretty cool to have, and an extender. Triple Thorn. Thorn, until the introduction of Loki, was the best normal summon because you contribute it and summon 2 of them from the deck and burn your opponent. What that will do is it'll give you 2 plant materials to link off and put your life points ahead, and in this deck you generally want your life points to be higher than your opponent to gain access to a lot of your secondary effects. The only problem with Thorn is if it's asked, your field is empty, which is why Loki is somewhat better, but he's definitely the second best normal in the deck. Double Angelica. Angelica is an aroma monster that works slightly different from the others as an aromatherapy. So you can discard it as a fast effect, targeting an aroma in the graveyard and gain life points equal to that target's attack. And then if your life points are higher, you can revive her from the graveyard, but banish it when it leaves the field. So this is one of the main ways you're going to be gaining life points on your opponent's turn to trigger your disruption. And she's a very useful card to have. You're going to often search her off. Triple Unexpected Die. Die summons Loki, and Loki is a full combo on its own. So Die is just excellent card to have. A single Sunvine Sowing, just part of the Sunseed package. A single Called by the Grave. Triple Aroma Gardening, Triple Aroma Garden. These two are your in-theme life point spells. Gardening, if you no more special aroma monster once per turn, gain 1,000 life points, and if an opponent's monster declares an attack while your life points are lower, special aroma from deck. So it serves two purposes. One, it gets your life points higher to start with and serves one of your gains. And two, if you fall behind and end up in a losing position, it can help you recover. Garden is a once per turn gain 500 life points, and when you do, all monsters you control, including ones that you do not yet control, so this is just until the end of your opponent's next turn, every monster you control will have 500 more attack and defense, which is very useful. If an aroma is destroyed, gain 1,000. So a lot of gain here, plus the attack buff. And then finally, one of each of the winds traps. So these are the in-theme back row. They are ordered here in order of best to least. Arguably, Humid is better than Dried, it just depends, but Blessed is always the best one. You're always going to be able to search out one in your game plan, and you should basically search them in this order. If you open one, you get the next down the chain. So Blessed has 3 effects. Send a plant from hand or field to grave to gain life, shuffle a plant from grave into deck to gain life, or pay life to revive an aroma from the grave. So if you don't have another way to gain life, you're going to be recycling plants in your grave. One, to refill your utility tools, so you don't have a lot of other ways into your graveyard, and 2, so that you can gain life to trigger your back row, or trigger your boss monster. But if you do have another way to gain life, you'll often be paying 1,000 to revive bodies to build board presence. Humid says you can pay 1,000 to add an aroma, so you use this to get your cards for next turn, and if your life points are lower, you can gain 500. Really good. It would arguably be better than Blessed if it not for the fact that you have to be behind to gain life points, whereas Blessed lets you gain whenever, so that's unfortunate. And Dried says if you gain life points, target any face-up monster your opponent controls and destroy it. That right there is pretty cool. It means this one serves as a piece of disruption if you have a gain set up. The other cool thing that Dried does is if your life points are at least 3,000 higher, you can pay the entire difference and destroy face-up monsters your opponent controls whose attack adds up to less than or equal to what you paid. You can use this to blank a board if your difference is high enough, and it can get high enough. So that's the main deck. In this version, we're not playing hand traps. Sometimes I do throw them in there. If you're running hand traps, you're going to start by cutting down mostly some of the generic extenders, and you're going to cut down this back row. You don't really need to run 9 Aroma back row. And that's kind of a running theme with Aromages, is that as you increase the optimization of the deck, you start shedding more and more Aroma cards. It's a sad state the deck's in, to be honest, but it's an unfortunate part. So, like, if I wanted a set of hand traps, I'd probably drop each of the Aroma spells to 2, and then either Humid or Dried, or maybe I would cut a Rose Girl. Something like that. In the extra deck, we have 3 Drysis, 2 Healer, 1 Melius, and 1 Bengalancer. This is the Sunvine Extract package. It's massive. You don't need the 3rd Dryas, but having it's a good idea because there are other uses for the 3rd, and it helps you have lines through an Imperm anyway. So, yeah. Double Aromages Jasmine. She was our first extra deck monster, and is a great piece of both generic and in-theme support. Made with 2 plant monsters, her effects are, if your life points are higher than your opponent's, this card and any plants it points to can't be destroyed by battle. You contribute a monster she points to special plant from your deck, and once per turn if you gain life points, and this one is a soft once per turn, you can add a plant from your deck to your hand. So she just does a lot for plant decks, and in particular when your life points are higher, she is a very useful tool. You're going to use both of them regularly. 1 each of Shrene the Rika Queen and Teardrop the Rika Queen. So this goes along with our Rika package from earlier. Strenna can detach to recycle a plant card, And if she's tributed with material, say by the Lone Fire or by Jasmine, she'll float into Teardrop, who's a disruption. One Queen of Thorns. Queen of Thorns is actually not like the best synchro you can go with, you would think. The problem is if you do the die line, you're going to be blocked to plants, and so you have to decide if you want this slot to be a generic synchro for when you're not locked to plants, or something you can build onto the board when you are. In this case, I chose the latter, but either is a valid choice. Queen of Thorns isn't disruption per se, but it says that each player must pay 1,000 for every monster, normal or special, from their hand except for plant monsters. You'd be surprised how quickly that adds up. You can easily see a Splight player lose 4,000 or 5,000 to her. It's very funny, actually, and it can put them in easy kill range. Double Aromages Sweet Marjoram. She is our actual boss monster. While your life points are higher, your opponent cannot target any plants you control. And then when she is synchro summoned, you will search one of the winds. Unfortunately, that's not special summon, so you can't revive her and then do it again. But it means you'll always search Blessed, and the next turn if you make another one, you'll search the next one down the chain. And finally, and when you gain life points, you pop a card. So target card your opponent controls and destroy when you gain. So that's your main disruption. And finally, Psychic End Punisher. Psychic End is like a de facto killer for this deck. So if your life points are less than or equal, it's unaffected by card effects. You can pay life points to target one monster your opponent controls, or you control, and one card your opponent controls, and banish them. All that's well and good, but here's the real kicker. At the start of the battle phase, it will gain attack equal to the difference between your life and your opponent's. And in this deck, that means you can actually fairly reliably watch this card skyrocket up to like 10,000 attack. You will end games with him. At level 11, it's not the easiest thing to make. You're going to need a bunch of different levels, but Blessed is usually enough to get whatever missing levels you need on board anyway. So between healing up to search off Jasmine or reviving something from grave, like you have a lot of levels to work with. You'll get there. Typically, you're going to be using a level 3 tuner off Rose Girl, for example, so you need 8. So you might say Rose Girl, Jasmine, and Mars, for example. So yeah, that's the list. Now, before we go into some replays, I'm going to show basically all the primary 1 or 2 card pairs in this deck. So there we go. So the old school starter was Thor and Laurel. I'm just gonna. So Thorn tributes summons 2. Oops, sorry, you don't want to do this yet. Because your life points are now higher, you can summon Laurel. Laurel will heal, allowing you to search whatever piece you're missing off Jasmine. Let's just say it was you wanted to do rank 4 line, for example. Tribute Lone Fire, so or tribute for Lone Fire, and then from there, kind of go off to whatever you want to do. So that Thorn plus Laurel was our main starter for a very long time. So now, let's show Thorn plus Girl. And Thorn plus Girl is basically the same thing, except you're not going to get the heal. So you would again go into Lone Fire and just combo from there. So you don't get the heal, which means you don't get the search, but you still have the 3 plant bodies you need to, you can get into your boss that way, stuff like that. Alright, so now we will show Thorn plus Exceed. So here, Exceeds are going to make Scanner. Recycle one of Thorn just because you can. Tribute that off for your Lone Fire. Strand that can float. and then just go from there as you need. Alright, so now let's do Laurel plus Exceed. So here, you can link into Dryas, and you want to make sure you heal and summon the Exceed. Now you're going to want to put Strenna in the middle or outer zone. Strenna will recycle that Laurel. Our life points are now higher because we healed him, so we can summon Laurel back. We don't get the second heal, so we don't get the search, unfortunately, but now we can make our Jasmine. Tribute that off. And Strenna float. And look at that. Okay. And then Laurel plus Girl. This one is unfortunately the weakest line because you need another extender to do anything with it. You're going to make... sorry. So the trick here is that you used to go 5 racks, and if you still run 5 racks, you can. Otherwise, you are unfortunately stuck with nothing to do here. So you need, if you have, let's say you have Garden or Gardening at this point, you can heal, search a second Laurel, and special summon it, but that's a 3-card play, obviously. Girl plus Exceed is a similar matter. So... normal Girl, Exceed. Now here you're not going to get the Strenna float, but what you can do, we recycle the Girl, make Jasmine, and summon the Rose Girl, and so you still have your 3 bodies. So it's not quite as powerful, but it's still something that comes up. So those are all the main 2-card lines off of these monsters. Now the Sun Avalon line. This is probably the most powerful one we've got. So just off of Die into Loki, or Loki, you can just normal summon it. You're going to make a Dryas. Ignore all of these. Get Sunvine. Sunvine is going to summon Twin. Twin is going to revive the Seed. Dryas is going to summon the Healer. Going to go ahead and heal a little bit. Going to go ahead and make a Jasmine with our 2 Link monsters. Make a second Dryas using the Twin. Make a second Healer using the Seed. Now here we are going to search Angelica. And you may have other lines at this point depending on what else was in your hand, but assuming you had nothing else in your hand, the next step you need to do is tribute into a Lone Fire. I'm just going to shove that over here. Tribute the Lone Fire away into main deck Jasmine. Now, because our life points are higher, we have an extra normal, so we're going to use our second bonus normal, so we haven't used our main one. Into Angelica. Go ahead and synchro into Queen Marjoram. Sweet Mushroom. Go ahead and search at our Blessed Winds. Now, because our life points are still higher and we have an Aroma, we can revive that. Go ahead and make Melius. Melius is going to revive the Seed. And I will make Bangalancer. So, off of just the unexpected die, we have Vankalancer and Marjoram Pop via Blessed Winds. We have 4 more cards in hand, and we have a life point surplus, and we have not used our normal summon. So that is a very, very powerful line for the deck. Very useful. Okay, so those are all the main starters you're going to want to know. Now, over the course of the game, your goals are going to be to focus on keeping your life points on top and maintaining board control. So let's watch a couple replays to close this out. So first off, we're up against Merlantians. And we're going to go for a Thorn Laurel opening with the bonus Exceed. Go ahead and heal up, get our Angelica. We have so many bodies to work with, so we're just really enjoying that. And the reason we're leaving Strenna on board here is to use the Princess negate on the opponent's turn. So the Princess will tribute off the Strenna for a negation. That was the Princess negate right there. Tripping Strenna, Strenna floats. Gonna go ahead and heal here. And that's a nice thing you can do in Aroma. You can chain block your disruption because you have multiple triggers. Here we are up against the unusual new Equip Fire deck. So we went with the Laurel Exceed opening here. And what we're doing is we've decided to go and start the Sunseed line off of that Lone Fire, because you don't actually need to lead with it. You just need your extra Monster Zone free, which is why we tributed Jasmine. He's going to do adventure stuff. I'm going to go ahead and preemptively get my heal in here to pop the token, but I messed up because of ordering. I could have been a little more effective, but it's fine. We're going to get rid of that anyway, which is the most important thing to clear. The reason we're tributing that is to force him to have this fail, because he needed to tribute that off for the ritual summon. I'm actually not sure why he crashed the token. He might have just been de facto scooping, honestly. But we've got game at this point. Okay, here we are versus Libromancer. This was an interesting game. This went on for a little while. Libromancer are pretty good at utility, or at resource advantage. So here we went with a Seed Exceed line, and the reason we did all this kind of stuff here is because this was our opportunity to get a second body on board in case of hand traps. So if he had like Asher and Perm there, and we hadn't summoned this the Exceed, we wouldn't have really had a way to continue. So we just wanted to get that in play so that we would have that option. Now, unfortunately, I did mess up my zones slightly. It's something that I had to kind of work with, but it's fine. I mean, we're ending in a perfectly good place, so I'm not upset about it. And once again, we have our Princess engraved for the Rika disruption. That ogre was annoying because I was counting on that heal, both to trigger the pot and to maintain us at positive life points. We are now below life points, which means he can target us. So that was annoying, but it is what it is. So the Bengal Lancer's gone off. That burn is just... and we knew that was coming. Anytime you see the Benton in this kind of deck, you know it's coming, so that's what we're saving Tribute for. So he's going to get some... He's going to get some stuff in on us, but he's not going to be able to wipe our board, so we'll be fine. So at this point, my main thing is I want to get my life point generation going. Because it is very important to me that I get my life points back above his. That was useless to us now, so we might as well get rid of it. Now, unfortunately, I forgot the battle phase trigger here. It should have gained attack points. I messed that up. You know. It is what it is. I just want to keep shoving that back to hand. It's dangerous to have. So he's going to put Costless. Costless is not going to do anything, though. It's not a useful card. At this point, he can't do anything to stop us. Okay. This was against Poker Knights. Now you'll notice that we're facing a lot of more casual decks. That's the nature of Aromage. It's very casual versus casual. The deck struggles when faced with things like hand traps and big boards. Yeah, it is what it is. So we're going through the whole Sunseed line here. We're going to want to get our Jasmine out so that we can normal that Lone Fire. Yeah. Recycle this pin just in case we want it later. Now, quick thing to note, you may notice that the Mars room fired despite there being nothing to do with it. So all the Aromage on heal effects are mandatory triggers. So that's one of the quirks about this deck, is that you have to be careful you're ordering because you can't hold them for later. They all fire at once. It's a kind of annoying problem, especially if you're running a more pure list with lots of the main deck ones, where you may not want to do them all at the same time. The good news is this is Poker Knights, which doesn't do a lot. It's just going to drop bodies on board. We're just going to go ahead and start getting rid of some of those. Cool. Yeah, that didn't do anything. Okay, just two more. So here, oh, I forgot I saved this one. This is Chemicritters. A little bit of neat kind of red eyes play, but not much to it. I think we're gonna resolve the entire Sunseed line here. It really is a remarkably useful combo. Just incredibly powerful. That's annoying. So we're just going to go ahead and fire those off to get what we want. So we're just getting pieces to build something big to beat over that dragon. And yes, you can stack these attack gains, which is a cool effect. So we're now plus 1,000 off him. And we'll just go Psychic End. And here we go. That should be big enough. And one final replay. Versus an actually competent deck, Despia. So once again, we are going to resolve the Sun line. Whenever you resolve it, it's just fantastic. A lot of quirky ordering there to make sure that we resolved these trying to float with enough zones, and by being able to make Bengal Answer down here, we keep Jasmine for the battle protection effect up on all three of these. So we've made a stronger board here. That's annoying. So what we're going to do is tribute it off to make the fusion fail, because he has to fuse with himself and something on the opponent's board. And here, I'm healing on this chain, so I can immediately pop what he summons, because these fire on summon, or the ones that I assumed he's going to make fire on summon. Graveyard Effect, we're going to negate that, and just like that, he's done. That easy. Alright, so obviously those replays were picked to showcase the deck working. You'll notice we didn't get hand-trapped. The deck is rough, and there's definitely room to improve it, but in spite of all of its flaws, this is a long-time favorite of mine. Incredibly fun to play. Has some access to some really cool tools and a lot of different ways you can build and play it. And I mean, if you scroll through the history of videos I've uploaded for friends and such, you'll see I had Aromage demos of different kinds like 5 years ago. It's a passion of mine, and I just wanted to show it off a little bit. Alright, that's all.